I don't even have the dulcet tones of the Common Good podcast audio. Don't have it because we're on the road. We're traveling, so as
You
we
don't
get
you,
going,
you don't take that on the road with you?
I should take because this is
That
that
little
big
that
of a
little
deal.
music file not loaded onto your laptop?
Well, it should be. It should be loaded on. But hey, welcome to the Common Good podcast, everybody. If you're a little confused because you normally get to hear from your good friends at Vote Common Good on Tuesdays for the political podcast, and you might say to yourself, "Oh my goodness, is it Tuesday today?" Because when you reach a certain
Yeah,
stage of
daylight
life,
savings time just totally thrown you off. Lost a whole day.
yeah, it's thrown you off for a total of days. There's now days that you don't flip back a day. But it's Wednesday. A little bit of travel yesterday. Doug Pagitt here. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I got to tell you, Rob, I haven't been in the capital city since the resurgence of Donald Trump, which to me feels like a horror movie, where you just know the monster's not dead.
Yeah.
And he came back. I've been here a few times during the Biden administration, but coming back in again, I know it's me. It's in my head. There's nothing different in the city, but it feels heavy. It feels sad. It feels utterly depressing to be here. So, anyway.
No large "Make America Great" banners hanging, or
I haven't seen any yet, but I haven't scoured the entire city. I haven't been down to Black Lives Matter Plaza, which is being reworked or renamed into Liberty Plaza. I haven't seen that yet, so there could be something there. I haven't been to Lafayette Square, where a lot of that would go on. But I'll tell you, Rob, I am thrown by some things we're going to show today on the level of support for Donald Trump. This morning, reading a headline that said, Trump hits the highest level ever of approval for his work as president, from his first term and this term.
yeah.
The highest level ever. I mean, tied.
Yeah.
He tied where he was in early 2020. I mean, at one point in 2018. Yeah. The highest level. Now, it's still not all that high. It's only 47% approval rating. But he should be at 7% approval rating, 17% approval rating. Just confirms to me I do not understand what in the world the American people are thinking. It's just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've said this every week. My Trump supporting friends are thrilled. Now, the scary thing is that it seems like there has to be a lot of moderate Republicans and or so-called independents that are thrilled as well.
It's got to be.
Like, it's got to be. It's
Well, we're going to show some numbers on that.
yeah.
It's devastating.
Oh.
Well, hello to Alex from Florida, and hello to Robert, who says on Facebook, why just listening to you morons explain it all, exclamation point. Hey, Robert, good to see you, as always. Hey, I see your photo, Robert, that you put up there, and you're a man with a guitar. I, too, am a man with a guitar. So I'd like to chat about that sometime. Let's chat about your guitar preferences and see if,
Are you playing any open mics in DC while you're there?
see if we can find great disagreement. No, I'm not. In fact, I've just brought the smallest little travel guitar with me, this kind of almost fake guitar that like simulates sound. It's a great gift from a friend of mine, but I only have one day here where I don't have a real guitar around me, so I traveled with a little baby one. Because those who don't know, I've been playing guitar for 3 years, and I've traveled with one and played one every day except one day that I took off, just to prove I'm not a fundamentalist, and I can't get over it.
That's excellent.
Still regret that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Vanessa and I are avid Antiques Roadshow watchers. Doug, do you watch Antiques Roadshow?
I do not. No, I only watch British
See,
shows on PBS.
Yeah, it's an American show. But
I only watch the British shows.
You only watch the British shows on PBS. Oh yeah, that makes sense. I am always blown away by how much guitars are worth on Antiques Roadshow. It's just like somebody's like, yeah, my dad bought this guitar in 1962. He learned to play it, and blah, you know, like, yeah, that's worth $60,000.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Just absolute bonkers. There is an entire investment industry around what are referred to as vintage guitars, like from the 50s and 60s. Yeah, I met a guy at a guitar store. He was buying a guitar or was selling. I can't remember. It was $47,000, and he said, "And I don't play guitar. I just collect them as investments, and I keep them in my house, and I got a bunch under my beds." And he's got hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just a kind of average looking guy who doesn't even play. He's just like, no, these things are worth a lot. And in this economy, this is a better way to hide them. And I'm like, okay, fair enough.
That's awesome.
Fair enough.
Yes, I mean this one was this
in
one we saw on Monday. It was like there was something about like if the screws on the inside were white, it would be worth like $10,000 more. I don't know.
It's just weirdo vintage stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
And actually,
and for those, and you know, Vanessa and I don't just watch this because we're old. We watch this because my wife Vanessa runs a vintage store on Etsy, and you know, so it's research.
Has she considered getting into the high-end antique or high-end vintage guitar market? I mean,
No.
the cost of getting in is high.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know what drives it up? This is I'm way too into this, like values of guitar nonsense.
Oh yeah, I've taken this down a rabbit hole.
It's the international market, and it's
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the
People overseas want the vintage American guitars.
The most valuable ones are owned by Saudi princes and
of course,
and the likes, and so that causes the whole sort of market to move. And so it's a great illustration of like international economics when it comes to certain kinds of products.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Now they're kind of perfect. They're kind of perfect for it because they don't take a lot of room. They don't take a lot of space. You don't have to do a lot of things with them. There's a whole reason why these things are.
And they look great hanging on a wall.
Yes.
A guitar hanging on a wall looks fantastic. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
But you could hang a fake version or a replica version of that 1954, Strat. And no one would know. It would still look great. It's just the weirdo collectors that it's like collecting art. It's collecting art. What am I?
Yes. Now watch this. Watch me bring this back to the point of our podcast. Have there been any tariffs announced on the importing and exporting of vintage guitars?
Anything purchased and made in Mexico or China or sold through there. Yeah. Yeah. Donald Trump endorsed a guitar, the Trump guitar.
Did he really?
The Make America Great Again guitar.
Shut up. I have not heard of this.
Oh, really? Oh, Google it right now. They said they were only making 1,000 of them. He signed 200 of them or something. And people have been digging around. And you guessed it, made in China. Made in China guitars. Donald Trump signs them on his own website. They even have them. They had them.
The limited edition American Eagle Guitar Series. Oh my goodness!
Why
it's
I don't
like
have
this guitar with like the like what's it called there's a word for this type of art. Oh, it's just it's like something you would see.
It's like airbrush painting on there.
Airbrush. Yeah. That's the word I'm looking for. It's
with
like
an eagle.
Airbrush eagle. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
so
airbrushed
ugly.
eagle, and then he signs it, and then it says "Make America Great Again" on the fretboard, and they're made in China. I mean, he's just such a POS. It's just unbelievable, right? But any guitars made there, if you get into the guitar world of YouTube and all this, people are like, these tariffs are going to absolutely crush the entire guitar industry. The pedals that are made, the amplifiers, the guitars, the strings. I mean, all of this stuff are just going to be impacted by the tariffs, and it's absolutely for no purpose, for no reason, and just going to bring harm. And yet, Rob, I'm going to pop up a couple of these polls here.
Yeah.
While more Americans disapprove of Donald Trump, this article says, 47% approval rating that he currently has in this last poll from this pollster matches the president's all-time high. 47%. 53% disapprove. To the people who are ever going to approve of Donald Trump, more of them approve of him right now than have ever. And it is an unmitigated disaster. It's like his base, his bottom of polling is just inexplicably high. Inexplicably high. And here's what makes it worse. 47% of the people in the poll thought the government cuts that Doge is doing were good. Only 29% opposed of what Doge is up to. Elon Musk doing all that damage that in my feed, in my world, what I see on social media, what I see in my news feed, what I see on commentators like us on YouTube, you would think everyone knows this is a terrible disaster. No, 1/3 of the people polled think it's a problem. Others are like, yeah, I don't know, probably cutting the waste. Here's my point. I don't want to just depress all of us. We just have work to do. So whatever we can do, we just have to move these numbers. I don't know, this democracy is now left up to us. There is no one else. It's just those of us of good spirit.
Okay, so there's a couple of different things, and there's in the chat there's some folks who have raised some interesting questions. What do we make of these numbers? So there's some options. Number one, there's the option that Mary suggests, that he's got corporate media in his pocket. And there's reason not to believe these polls because they are conducted by people that have essentially kowtowed to Donald Trump, or at least don't want to put out bad news related to Donald Trump because they don't want to lose their access. Another option is that, that the polls are faulty, and we've got that. Lori just suggested that they only poll his base. Yeah. I have not been polled. Have you? What are, or Russ says, bogus poll. He buys one whenever he gets too low. So Doug, are we to believe these polls, or because we disagree with or are disappointed by the numbers, do we just say, no, they can't be true?
My opinion is, I think polling is a very iffy proposition to actually capture American sentiment. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think there's consistency across the polls over time. So they may not be accurate, but the comparison of what they said, what people said previously and what they say now, I think is measuring something. So would it be true if you took every American or every voter, 150 million people, and talked to all of them, would 47% say he's doing a good job, or would that number be higher or lower? Is it accurate to that degree? I don't know. it's polling, it's statistical analysis, which applies to the same statistical analysis applies to all kinds of things, including, the chances of cancer treatments working or anything else. But over time, NBC has been polling the American people on their view of the president and this president and other presidents. And they're able to compare and contrast those things. If sentiment truly dropped about Donald Trump, it would show up. Now,
Yes.
that comes from a guy whose opinion is NBC or Marist or these universities that run polls or polling companies are not lying. That's not these people. Trump may have internal polling. Democrats could be polling people with groups that don't lie. And if they wanted groups that don't lie, they could say those polls are a lie. Here's the real polls. They run the real polls and they show the same thing. So no, I don't think it's corporate media. I think it is somehow reflecting the sentiment of the American people to the degree to which they can be accurate. It's my take.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. If sentiment was opposed to Donald Trump widespread, that would be reflected in these polls. Like there would, and it might not be the 7% that you suggested it should be, but it would be a lot lower.
Yes.
It would be a lot lower. I think what we see here, and again, I think you're right that there is, news media runs polling both to have a story to report on, a trend, an overall sense of just like the general flavor out there. And I got to tell you, it matches what I see. It matches the conversations I have. Like my friends that are anti-Trump are still anti-Trump, very much so. And my friends that are pro-Trump are still very pro-Trump. And that divide exists. And you see that expressed in this poll. And as we've been saying since November and before, how can so many people in this country support this?
I don't know.
And listen, folks, so many people in this country support this.
Yeah.
Like we've got your neighbor, your friend, your family member supports this.
Yeah.
And like we can't pretend that that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really right. We do. And we have to know that the majority of people who chose to vote on or before Election Day, more of the people who did that action picked Donald Trump to be the president than picked Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Just let that settle in. And even in these polls, even in the best of the polls that we ran, 53% of people do not approve of what he's doing. The majority of people do not approve of the job that he's doing, but the percentage of people who chose to vote on Election Day voted for Donald Trump. So we live in a world in which Trump's highest polling he's ever had was reflected in this poll, 47% support. That's not 50%. So do Americans agree with Trump? Statistically, you would have to say, no, they don't. The majority do not. The minority of Americans do. So this is what's weird about these polls. His highest number is still lower than half the people. So what does America stand for? Okay. Now, because he won the election and we choose to put people into political power and give their ideas the weight of political power by winning elections. You can win an election by having the majority of the voters vote and still not have the majority of the people. Now, I'm not banging on people for voting or not voting. I'm just saying they're describing different things. And I think that's important for us to recognize that there are still more people. Now, it might not be more people where you live, or it might be way more people where you live, depending on, where you live. But the other thing I want to raise here is that somebody might say, I approve of what Trump is doing, but I don't approve of this or that, right? Like, I am shocked that with Elon Musk's work, only 29% think Doge is a problem, which means 53% of people think Trump, they don't approve of the job he's doing, but only 30% think that Doge is a problem. So my point being, I think there's some work to do with the topics, with the particular issues, because general approval rating is a very weird thing. That's why they do all these, they call them crosstabs. People probably know this if you pay attention to polling, or they drill down on particular topics. He's actually way down on economics, how he's doing in the economics. He's way up on what he's doing with trade. People think trade is great, apparently. Like, people think it's better, even though they disapprove of the job that he's doing. So there's a lot of ideas rolling around in here. What I want to encourage people to do is to say, just keep working at it. Just keep talking to your friends. Again, most people aren't going to spend any time paying attention to the issues that anyone watching this podcast is paying attention to, right? I mean, we are way deep in the weeds. Most people don't know these things.
Yeah, there's a high level, like from a very high level, when you say things like, should America be sending money overseas to foreign countries? Mm-hmm. Like, people, absolutely, like that. Should we cut waste and fraud in the federal budget? Oh, absolutely. Most people aren't thinking about like, does the federal government need, to, is it bloated and needs to be, like, you ask those very broad questions, you're going to get widespread support, especially after 60 years of Republican demagoguing the federal government. You're going to get widespread support on those kinds of things. And I think that's where you see these Doge numbers being, being so high, is because they are just philosophically aligned with this idea that the federal government's too big, that there's waste, we need to cut spending, we need to take care of our own people before we send the money overseas, blah, 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 blah. But then once you begin to say, like, should the VA hospital in my town have its workforce cut in half? No. Like, no, I'm not in favor of that.
Right.
So, but, so like that, I mean, you get that. I think that's where, we get some of this stuff. Yeah.
Are you in favor of losing 10 pounds? You could ask someone. Absolutely. Should I cut your head off? Absolutely not. Right? Like, exactly. There is. That's why I think the application of these things is something that we have to stay on. And because news is the way it is, people don't really pay attention to it. There's a lot of versions of it. You, friends, are still the best source of information for people who you want to persuade. I know that's hard. I know we want other people to be the ones doing it, but stick with it. And I know how frustrating it is. I mean, I'm in a couple conversations right now with friends that are so frustrating, right? It's like, it feels like, and this is going to sound overly derogatory, and I apologize, but I'm just telling you how it feels to me. It feels like a conversation with an addict or someone who's in an abusive relationship, and I'm trying to help them change their pattern. It is full of all kinds of excuses, and it's not like that, and don't call me that, and it's like, okay, your defensiveness that has cocooned you into this worldview is aggressive for you. It's holding you
Yeah.
tightly. I get it. But you can break with the guy on a thing or two. You can say, I don't agree
Yeah.
with this. I want it to go like this.
Yeah. Well, I will let me tell you a little let me share a testimony. I had a situation where I had overheard Jared Christian,
In
one
the
of our
chat.
faves.
Hey, Jared.
Hey, Jared, love you, man. Um, I had a conversation recently where I had overheard a Trump um, saying something to a third, like to somebody else. I wasn't eavesdropping exactly, but loud talkers. Um, and this person was bearing false witness against his neighbor, who happens to be a congresswoman from the great state of New York, who I happen to have met a while back, and have a great fondness for. Goes by three initials, and everybody
AOC.
knows who she is. Yeah.
Okay.
Bearing false witness against her, related to her net worth. And I heard it. This is not my conversation, so I didn't get involved in it. I said to a mutual friend, I asked a mutual friend, hey, should I go after this with him? And my mutual friend advised me not to, just because, but as, the political gods would have it, I happened to be in conversation with this person a couple of days later, and it veered into politics, and we were having a friendly conversation, and he said the same false thing about
Nice.
the congresswoman from New York, having having a salary of $174,000, but she's now worth $9 million. And I had the opportunity to say to him, I said, that's not true, right? Like, that's been I said, like, if you had said that about Nancy Pelosi,
Yeah.
that could be true. But what you're saying about this particular person is not true.
Uh-huh.
And he immediately began backtracking, and and I said,
Yeah.
it's it might be important to do your research, wink wink. And I say it to say, like, there's a couple of different ways to go in these conversations. One is the big philosophical stuff where you're talking about big issues, and the other is to chip away one at a time at these demonstrably false things that get said. And I know that this friend of mine isn't going to repeat that one particular lie ever again. And okay, so we got a whole lot more lies to go after. But
One of the things Vote Common Good is up to is we're going to put out this sign-on letter with a bunch of other organizations. It's actually a sign-on action to email a letter to the top 40 religious denominations and pastor organizations in America, asking them to encourage the clergy associated with them to tell the truth about migrants and immigrants during Lent, to make the demand that during the season of Lent, they would take some way.
Should have gotten that kicked off back on.
Well,
back on Ash Wednesday,
it's coming.
but
It's
okay.
coming. It's coming. You only got a couple of weeks. You've got a couple of weeks left. That during these weeks, people would say, if you're in a position of being a religious leader, especially Christian religious leaders, that you would simply tell the truth about this. This is something
Crazy idea. You will not bear
Yeah.
false witness against your
Yes.
neighbor.
Will you simply tell the truth? I mean, it's a thing we can get to. But look, a lot of us run into information that's not true. So just this week, I was in a conversation with a friend who was very bothered by information that had been coming out. His friend said, "Look, I just saw the news that Doge has canceled the lease on the Obama library. This is a way to try to erase the legacy of a black president." Very upset about it. News article.
Yeah.
Turns out they are canceling the lease because the library is moving in 2025 to another place. So the lease that was on the building being used is not going to be utilized anymore. But what Doge did through Fox News and then picked up by other outlets was said, we're canceling the lease on the Obama library building to gain credit for something they didn't do. So they are trying to troll, they are trying to do erasure, but as it turns out, that's not the reason that they're moving and there's no harm being done. So there's a lot of information. My wife and I go through this a lot. Yes.
It's Doge padding their numbers.
That's it. Yes.
They get credit for canceling this when it's gonna expire anyways.
Anyway,
like
at the end of this year.
And
yeah.
They are padding their numbers. They're not.
Yes. And they're doing it in a way that makes it seem like they're going after Obama, which makes people feel good, right? It was like a little stunt, a little publicity stunt that they did. But
totally.
So pursuing the truth about things is what you could ask your friends to do, your family members to do. Like, hey, I get a lot of wrong information. I got snuckered by the Tucker Carlson is taking over for Jimmy Kimmel. Fake news story. I sent it around to people. And here's why I did.
I was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's why I did. Thinking about myself, like, why did I react so instantly? And for those of you that do your interpersonal work, why did I react instead of respond? Right? Mm-hmm. Why was there something seemed almost involuntary? And it's because that's the kind of thing that scares me. And that's the kind of thing that I assume is happening because I'm watching media companies give way. So I gave a lot of credit to a ridiculous notion because it served some other purpose in my life. And this is what, when you're talking to that friend you're talking to, or any of us talking to the people we're talking to understand, like, what does that do for you? Because if you can help people get to that, you can start to solve a few things, right? People aren't just believing lies because they want to believe lies. They're believing things that are not true, thinking they are true, and wanting them to be true. That is the real schnicker in all this, is that we want them to be true. Hey, Jared brings up that question earlier where he said, what about the difference between aggregated polls like those that take, into account 10 polls since, over the last month versus the one single poll? And I think he's bringing that up in the question here because I saw two headlines today. One was this headline of which I pulled the pieces that we're going to continue to show you here about Trump's approval rating being the highest in the history of his presidency, tying the highest number. And the other being that the aggregate of polls over time has him down across the board. He's losing support across the board. Mm-hmm. Okay, so both of these things are true. So on an aggregate, some numbers are true, and and on the individual poll, some other things are true. So that's just a reality that we all really have to deal with. I managed to get myself all choked up over that. Pardon me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Hey, here's one more from that same poll bit that just I think is probably the most insightful. That same poll, this NBC poll that showed Trump at 47% approval rating, 53% disapproval rating, showed that a 2-decade high of 44% of registered voters think the country is on the right track, while 54% believe it's heading in the wrong direction. That marks 44% on the right track, marks the most positive outlook on the country's direction the NBC poll has found since President George Bush was in office 20 years ago. Couple things here.
Yeah.
The American people, only the highest number of people who've ever thought we were on the right track, 44%. This has been a
20 years.
country
That is
for
is
2 decades
crazy.
that has had 54 to nearly 60% of people, no matter who the president is, believing we're on the wrong track. Americans consistently believe America's a disaster.
Yeah.
It is wild. It is just now the fact again that 44% think we're on the right track means that 56% think we're not or didn't think we're on the right track. But comparing that over time, we've just given up on thinking America's in the right track. So I don't know what we do with that, because I think that is the heart of the frustration in America. No matter what the policies, as they've wobbled back and forth, no matter if you have a dictator like Trump in office or someone who seems to be incompetent in his final days in office, or somebody who's cheered on by the American people like Obama was, people are like, wrong track. Nope, not going well.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's just the political divide swinging back and forth, but this is a real issue.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There has been, I think this feels to me like it is the result of just the increased kind of hyper partisanship that it feels like we have right now, where if my team isn't winning, then then the whole country's lost, and there, we feel that way about Donald Trump.
Yep.
Republicans felt that way about Joe Biden. We felt that way about Donald Trump. Republicans felt that way about Barack Obama. And I don't know if there's a way to, dial that back, if we should dial that back, or but I think there's some recognition that okay, we have turned the temperature up on this thing so high that, it's, I was making quesadillas last night for my daughters after Whimsy had soccer practice, and Vanessa works late on Tuesday night, so I was making some quesadillas just for the girls, and
Make a goddamn
I buttered up the
quesadilla.
ones. What quesadilla?
Remember
Yeah,
from-
make yourself your own dang quesadilla.
Goddamn quesadilla. If you don't know Napoleon Dynamite,
Tina,
we
you
apologize
fat
for
lard.
that. We apologize for that ridiculous reference. So you made him a goddamn
and let me tell
quesadilla.
you, the guy who plays Napoleon Dynamite,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name. Super weird follow on Instagram. Let me tell you,
Oh,
super
okay.
weird follow. Yeah,
Okay.
so much so that I've thought about unfollowing him. But
Ooh. Wow. Drastic.
not just because it's a lot of weird stuff.
Okay. Your freak gauge is still pretty high. You'll take a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Buttered up those tortillas, popped them on the frying pan, and immediately sizzling. Had the pan up too high, too hot. It's gonna burn here in a second. And I think that's what we've got in our political system right now, where as soon as anything hits the pan, it's burning instantly. It's there, and And I think these polls are reflective of that, that like, hey, this could be a problem, that there's
Yeah.
no leeway given to the other side at all.
At all. Yeah, and you know who's not approving
And I'm
of
not suggesting we should at this moment, because my
No, I'm
sense
with
of where
you.
we're at is dramatically changed. But I'm just saying, historically, we've got this. I think
Yes.
this is what has gotten us to this
Yeah.
point.
Look, okay, so before I share this other thing about those who are really opposed to Trump's behavior, I was in a call with a group that does a lot of work on the progressive left. I was talking about trying to do some advocating around how devastating USAID cuts are, USAID, to security, to contractors who've chosen to Americans. And they were like, yeah, I don't think a lot of Americans like worry about international, issues, especially in their left side. And then he said, so I said, yeah, I get that, but I think there's something that a lot of people just feel like America has a way of being a good actor in the world, and USAID is the way we do that. It's our most caring, generous America doing good around the world. That's what that whole genre of spending from the federal government is. Keeps us out of wars, does this thing. And then he said, yeah, but we found that anytime we message anything about America being a good actor at all, we just get lambasted by the left about how America is not a good actor.
Yep.
So there is some realities that those of us who want to see Donald Trump lose elections, and people like Donald Trump to lose elections and want to see Democrats win elections, or we see it, that the consortium of voters who make up that group that would vote against Trump also include a large number of people who don't think highly of America and our actions in the world, and believe that it's not a democracy, believe that it's racist, believe that it has bad actions in the world. So right track, wrong track kinds of things are influenced by all these other perceptions of how we view America. Now, I think no president has ever declared hating America more than Donald Trump. He literally talks, as one of our favorite people we've worked with, Josh Shapiro, says, governor of Pennsylvania, he shit talks America all the time. All the time.
Yep.
It is incredible. And it's incredible how much MAGA people hate on the rest of America. But they're not the only ones that think America is the problem and not the not a part of the solution. So there's just a lot to bring in here about how Americans feel about America. I know that there's kind of this perception that we all walk around like couldn't be more proud and the greatest country to live in. There's some of that. But there's also these like not feeling great about America. If you've traveled since Trump got reelected internationally, maybe you felt that experience as well. And I've heard from lots of people who felt it. So I don't know, Rob, I think that's just part of all of this. Where does a person go? Who do you align with? Like the number of Trump supporters I know who are like, okay, I finally admit I voted for him, but I'm not like a Trumper. Like, okay, well, what they're like, don't assign me to be in with those people, even though I voted for them. And I get that. Like, I voted for Biden, but it doesn't make me a leftist. I voted for Kamala Harris. It doesn't make me somebody who thinks that America has no
voting
good
for Biden
actions in the world.
Definitely does not make you a leftist.
Yeah. So you could vote for Trump and not find yourself in the dark MAGA, right? Just like you could vote for the Democratic candidate and not find yourself in the deep left. That is, yes, that is true. Doesn't mean I'm susceptible to being pulled to MAGA because I'm not over on the other side. So we just have to recognize the complexity of a big population and a powerful minority voices on both sides, the MAGA side and the deep leftist side, that actually have a lot in common in their views of America, They just assign the problem to the opposite side.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who feel stuck. And I don't know what we do about it, because I'll tell you this, you can't even bring it up. I'm sure, I haven't looked at the chat yet. I'm positive over in the chat, or as we watch on the YouTube channel, as things go, people will just start, piling on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
because the
it's
no talk
interesting.
rules on the left are as brutal as they are on the right. And I'm not doing whataboutism. I'm just describing the actuality of lived experience by everybody.
Yeah. As we're having this conversation, the synapses are firing in my brain a little bit. I've been doing a lot of reading and research on how people have responded historically to the rise of, to put it mildly, troubling political administrations. And one of the things that I've been watching a few documentaries about the rise of National Socialism in Germany. And one of the things that's interesting to me is there is this absolute love for Germany, a patriotism for the country that gets expressed through the symbols and actions of National Socialism.
Okay.
The patriotism gets mediated through the symbols of the party and the leader. And I'm thinking about what we see with Make America Great Again, like how patriotism is being expressed through the symbols and through the signs, not of solely the flag or traditional American symbols of patriotism.
Yeah.
It's being expressed through, the hat that you wear, the
Trump
the
guitar
Donald
you
Trump
buy.
meme that you, the Donald Trump meme, that you of, the big muscular Trump that you have, printed on your Cybertruck. That there's something interesting there that just as we're having this conversation,
Sure is. And it works the other way, man. Last night I got picked up by an Uber, and it was a Tesla, and I think I texted you and some other people and said,
you did.
should I cancel
this?
cancel this Uber because I don't want to ride in a Tesla, because I want to say something about the future of America, and I think Elon Musk has aligned himself with a view of America, and his wealth comes from Tesla, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm not even virtue signaling to anyone other than myself. That thing is like the thing that makes you feel patriotic, like you said, putting a Trump image on your Cybertruck, which is a Tesla truck, is kind of the same thing as me feeling like I don't even want to ride in one of those things, or I'm glad that the used market on Teslas is crashing and the value is way down and new sales are way down and his perceived wealth. And by the way, just side note, he's not the wealthiest person in the world. His valuation of his wealth is the highest of any single individual that's not a Saudi prince. But that is not the same as wealth. Like, if Tesla goes away, his wealth goes away. Right? And when Tesla stock goes down, he loses $22 billion of valuation in a day. He could lose $1 trillion of valuation because it's not real money. It's value. It's how much it's valued at.
Yep.
It's like that fancy guitar you have hanging in your garage that you think is worth $60,000. It's not $60,000. You have to turn it into money before you have the money.
Yep.
Yes. Now you could borrow against it.
Yes. And this is the Antiques Roadshow thing, where at auction, we think it will bring this, but until someone actually bids, it's...
That's it. All right. Hey, here's the people who are not for Trump, apparently. Judges. and the legal
Yeah.
system. In the 58 days of Trump's presidency, he has had 6 major smackdowns, turnbacks, corrections by judges, by federal judges. The transgender military ban has been taken on and an injunction against it. The attempts to dismantle USAID has been put on hold. The use of the U.S. Enemies Act to send Venezuelans to Ecuador or to El Salvador. The birthright citizenship restrictions blocked. Federal funding freeze blocked. Anti-DEI orders temporarily blocked. Like these things, and they keep coming. Every day there are court cases against what the Trump administration is doing. And over and over and over, judges are blocking these things. So to the question that came up earlier, like what about law and order? What about the rule of law rather than just public opinion? This is where I come down. This is why, look, I don't care if approval rating of Donald Trump is 99%, not 99 point whatever number of nines. And I'm the only one, it's like Abraham, right? If I'm the only one, it is a criminal organization, the Trump administration, doing things that violate the Constitution for the purpose of expanding powers that this country has decided a president doesn't have, and to do real damage to people's lives. So I don't care about public opinion. It doesn't make it right. It's like, some parent lecturing some child. It doesn't make it right just because all your friends want to go do it. So these are two different realities. What do Americans think about it? And what's the actual reality of what makes freaking America America?
And I think the thing that, a lot of us who pay attention, the question we have is the Trump administration going to abide by these judicial rulings?
Yeah.
Or are they going to defy them? What happens if they defy them? Is there any recourse? What can be done?
Well,
what happens? And the work of congressional oversight, that would bring about an impeachment inquiry for defying a federal judge. That's not going to happen.
no.
So it's just, this is the big thing that a lot of people are terrified about, the so-called constitutional crisis.
Yes.
That, we feel like, we're on the brink of.
Yes. And there's one that's happening right now, yesterday and the day before and again today, and that's the one about the Venezuelans, gang members being wrapped up and then sent out under the Foreign Alien Act. A judge said, turn the planes around. 2 planes were in the air, did an order and said, turn those planes around. You don't have the authority to use the I'm not saying the name right. What's it called? The Alien Enemies Act. You don't have the power to use the Alien Enemies Act. You have to turn the planes around. They didn't. And then a third plane took off. And the judge called the lawyers in for the Justice Department and said, why didn't you turn the planes around? And they said, and they made a point, which might end up being true. They said, the time that you made that order, those planes were over international waters. And over international waters, the president has different powers than in the United States. So in international airspace, he's dealing with non-citizens who were overseas, literally over the seas flying. So they're gonna fuss all that out, right? Whether that's letter of the law and whether they were in contempt or not and all this. The third plane that took off after the written order, he said, why'd the third plane take off? Under what authority? Because you don't have the authority to do it under the Alien Enemies Act. And they said, we can't tell you. We can't tell you. You're not approved to know the authority by which we did that. And he's like, Oh yeah? You come back tomorrow and tell me by what authority you did that, right?
Yeah.
Now, that whole thing I think is insightful because there are some arguments. The presidency does have a lot of power, and the process for getting to this is really slow. Have a hearing,
Yep.
have a finding, make an order. The order goes into effect. Some action about the order is not kept up. You come back and ask them, why didn't they do the order? And then they give you an answer. And then you say, you have 24 hours to give me a better answer. Like, this is how it's going to go. This is what the Constitution, and even for you people who don't believe we have a democracy, this is how a democratic system works. It is slow. And in the meantime, they will do all kinds of damage.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Doug, I know I know time is short for us today, and we haven't had a chance to talk about a number of things. So here's what I'd like to do. I want to hit you with some topics, and let this be a little bit of like a speed round on some
Pat
things.
Benatar. Okay, Pat Benatar. Hit me with your best shot.
All right.
70s rock reference. Thank you.
The stranded astronauts are back on Earth, thanks to a SpaceX rescue. Elon Musk get the credit that Joe Biden, fumbled this thing and didn't get him home?
I don't know about if Biden fumbled it. From what I know, they were figuring out lots of other options. Look, we outsourced, and you can go back into deep cuts 10 years ago on podcasts that I was on, bemoaning the fact that NASA has privatized its international space work and lunar work to a manner of groups, of which currently SpaceX is one of them. Real problem. And it's terrible. When it comes to SpaceX, that is not Elon Musk in the way that other businesses that he's owned is. In fact, they have entire departments in SpaceX to keep Elon Musk out of it. He is a prime. Musk gets no credit, and nor does he take any blame for rockets that blow up. Yeah.
Okay, this is speed round. This is speed round. All right. Doug, the government did not get shut down thanks to the voting and leadership of Chuck Schumer.
Terrible that Chuck Schumer didn't find a better way to be sure the government wasn't shut down, which in my mind would have been an unmitigated disaster. Terrible, terrible thing. But that he did it in such a way that it seemed like he was going along with the Republicans. He is so incapable of legislating and communicating what he believes. It is tragic and has been tragic for years. And the man is not capable of doing that job.
Chief Justice John Roberts seemed to slap down Donald Trump with a really rare public statement saying that there's a way to handle federal judges that do something wrong, and impeachment is not the primary means, because Donald Trump has been suggesting that
Yes.
that judges who rule against him should be impeached. Thoughts about
Particularly-
is John
particularly
Roberts
on
throwing
this-
this fine?
Particularly on this one with the Enemies Act. Trump put out public posts calling him a lunatic, the judge a lunatic. Now this is, again, separation of powers issue. The legislative branch of the government is an equal branch. And you have the President of the United States attacking the legislative branch.
Judicial.
Sorry, thank you.
Well, he does attack the legislative branch too.
Yes, he does.
But we're talking about the judicial
But
branch.
in this case, he's attacking the judicial branch. And then Chief Justice Roberts has to come out and say, no, impeachment's not, like, for him to break decorum, Roberts, about speaking out about, like, normally the Chief Justice addresses Congress like once a year, and then speaks through his rulings and when he's on the bench. That's it.
Yep.
Doesn't comment. This was such a smackdown
Yeah.
coming from that part of our democratic system that to people who pay attention. Now, does Trump give a rat's ass? No, he does not. Does he care for a minute? Does he think Chief Justice Roberts matters at all other than getting what he wants? No. But is he completely unaware of the power that the Supreme Court has? And I know it's a speed round. Here's the problem. They're going to be ruling on a lot of issues that go to sort of how much power should Trump have and how much power should the presidency have. And watching someone behave the way Donald Trump does is going to affect some of those justices. Probably not, Gorsuch, and probably not Thomas, and probably not Alito, but the others will feel emboldened to put a restraint around this man because he's out of his mind.
Yep. It seems the one person who can hold Donald Trump in check is Vladimir Putin, who kept him waiting for over an hour for a phone call yesterday. Doug, what do you make of this?
I mean, just like, you're my boy now. Thanks for throwing down hard on Ukraine. Now just sit in the waiting room and I'll get to you when I can. I've got stuff to do. That the President of the United States, by sort of habit, doesn't wait for anyone. They always wait for him. That is a clear shot across the bow. And what happened to Trump? Of course he capitulated and folded.
Final question, the speed round, Doug. NCAA tournament, March Madness. It's gotten underway. Who do you got? Who do you got winning it all?
I don't follow it. Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, UConn. One of those four? Are they?
All right.
Did I get close?
Well, North Carolina won a play-in game. You know, the tournament's now 68 teams instead of 64. They have 4 so-called play-in games.
Okay.
And Carolina was very controversially the last team chosen to be in the tournament. Many people think they didn't deserve it. And then they went out and won their play-in game with a blowout. Kansas is playing the University of Arkansas in the first round, so we're not rooting for them. Duke, on the other hand, Duke could win it all.
Okay, see? I got close because as it turns out, it's all rigged. You know why? Because the coach's daughter is actually friends with somebody on TikTok, and that TikTok influencer has more power. Yada, 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 because sports are rigged.
Just like
Hey, I don't even think we talked about the Super Bowl when the team that had to win didn't win, right?
Yeah, we did talk about it. Yeah.
Oh, we did? Okay.
That was over a month ago, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just thought...
What are you doing in D.C. today, Doug?
I'm in a meeting with evangelical leaders and Jewish leaders talking about the perception and understanding of the nation of Israel and how evangelicals and Jews think about the nation of Israel and what can we do to make it better so that certain things will happen. It's kind of intense.
Yeah, and timely. And tomorrow, off the grid. Are we going off the grid?
No,
not quite. Not
no.
quite as
We're in the sun,
not as
but
off
we
the
are
grid
in the
as we
sun.
were when we were in Cuba. But we're Doug and I are going to be doing some planning about the future of Vote Common Good.
Yeah, we have a little brain trust gathering
So
up in Deep Red, Florida.
If you have any crazy ideas of what we ought to be doing, get them to us before tomorrow.
And you know how. Make a comment over on the YouTube channel. Thanks to all of
And
you.
if it's accompanied by a donation, we'll pay even more attention.
That's right. Then we will read it. Thanks to all of you who are on all the places where you're watching this. If you're not yet watching this on YouTube, we prefer it over there. We try to help the algorithm there find the success of this stream and podcast. So if you ever see us on Facebook, just jump over to YouTube and watch it there. It's a better watching experience. And it helps us a little bit. So, we're here to help you. And if you want to return the favor, you can watch it over there. Or not. I don't care. All right. Anything else, Roberto?
Just saying hi to everybody. Rita, Yabbits, Jared, thank you. Yabbits has ideas. Alex, of course. Jim. Alex, we're going to be in Florida this week. Garcia. Deb, is it Deb or Garcia? I don't know. We'll go with Garcia. Linda. Christine.
I see a Dawn. Lori?
Lori was dropping a lot of disagreement with us. Yep.
There's a lot going on, Jan.
So happy to have you, Lori. Thank Marv. Love the name Marv. Love it. Love it, Marv. Yeah. Anne, thank you so Frank.
Rose. Hey, Rose. Don't know you, but
Robert, all the way back.
a Rose by any
Robert.
other name?
Hey, thanks
Still
for
a Rose.
thanks for hanging with us a little bit this morning.
Yeah.
On a
Mary?
Wednesday, talking politics.
Lots of action. Yeah, Wednesday. It's just everything's off. All right, y'all. See you down the road.